Hello, Zimbabwe, and welcome to LiveTalk. We're coming to you live from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington, D.C., and I'm your host, Marvelous Mhlanga-Nyahuye. Today on LiveTalk, we're discussing the International Day of Democracy, which is commemorated annually on September the 15th. But first, let's take a look at what is happening here in the United States. Donald Trump is safe after what officials say was a second unsuccessful assassination attempt in 2 months. The FBI took the lead after Sunday's shooting with the suspect in custody. And with Americans facing another dramatic event in what is already a high-stakes, high-drama election, VOA White House correspondent Anita Powell reports from Washington.
Really come back.
For the second time in 9 weeks, former President Donald Trump walked away from a would-be assassination. The latest on Sunday afternoon at his golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida, the FBI said. Unlike the previous attempt, this one did not happen on live television, like the dramatic shooting Trump survived on July 13th. That attempt wounded Trump in the ear and killed a rally attendee behind him. Days later, Trump accepted the Republican Party's presidential nomination. Officials on Sunday said Trump was not hurt.
Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation, which is leading the investigation, says it appears to be an attempted assassination. The local sheriff said the suspect fled, leaving behind an AK-47-style rifle with a scope, a GoPro camera, and 2 backpacks. Police later caught him as he sped along the main highway into a neighboring county.
The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
In a joint statement less than an hour after the Trump campaign announced this second attempt on Trump's life, President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris said they were being regularly briefed and said they are relieved that Trump is safe. The sheriff said that the suspect was between 300 and 500 yards, about 275 to 460 meters from Trump, hiding in shrubbery. And as Monday dawns and questions swirl in America about how this will add further uncertainty in an already tumultuous election, those simple numbers underscore a terrifying fact: that a shooter managed to get so close to Trump, comfortably within the range of an AK-47 style rifle, about 275 meters. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
Thank you there, Anita, for that report. Authorities in Nairobi are trying to tackle the Kenyan capital's chronic and worsening air pollution with help from the U.S. Agency for International Development. Authorities are placing sensors that can monitor air quality around the densely populated capital city. Victoria Amunga reports from Nairobi.
Dense traffic and dirty fuel emissions characterize some of the Kenyan capital's streets. The city is home to at least 5 million people, and with the growing numbers, local authorities say the air quality is declining.
Many vehicles use diesel and petrol. They are emitting a lot of chemicals, the gases into the air. And also we have industries. Some of them are built in residential area.
Residents like Eunice Chuli, a vendor in Nairobi, bear the brunt of the situation. Chuli says she often falls sick. She believes it's because of the dirty air that she's exposed to here daily.
Recently, I had a coughing issue. I was coughing very seriously. I had to go to a hospital to be checked. I was under medication for a whole week.
The highest being
It's a situation that the authorities here are beginning to deal with. The first step is to install air quality monitors around the city. The monitors' inlets pick up particles in the air. Larger fragments are screened out, leaving the thin bits to flow to a filter. The head of air quality at the World Resources Institute, George Mwaniki, explains that the system measures particles which are usually dangerous to the human body.
And they come to a filter here where they are impacted And then the machine has a very sensitive weighing machine that it weighs every 1 minute what is the changes in terms of the weight of the filter.
So this is actually an hourly concentration.
The collected data is sent out for real-time analysis. At least 37 monitors have been set up so far. The initiative is funded by the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, for over $1.5 million. The agency's spokesperson says the data will help the government target clean air interventions where they are most needed and evaluate their effectiveness. According to a 2020 report, more than 5,000 premature deaths in Kenya are caused each year by air pollution. Respiratory disease specialist Dr. Jared Mecha says diseases that result from pollution are a matter of growing concern.
You have cough, so cough that we cannot explain. Then we also have actually cancers of the upper airway.
With the air monitoring devices, Nairobi joins 10 global cities that are working towards clean air by gathering data.
The Breathe Cities initiative looks to take a sectoral approach, and so we're looking for innovative policies across transport, across waste management, across industry.
People interviewed by VOA say possible solutions for Nairobi include the adoption of electric vehicles, greater control of industrial emissions, and the proper collection and disposal of garbage. Researchers say political goodwill is essential to implementing any solution. Residents like Chuli hope that lasting improvements to the air quality can be found soon. Victoria Amunga, VOA News, Nairobi.
Thank you, Victoria. Please stay tuned as we take a short break. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on all our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. We're also live on YouTube at VOA Zimbabwe. Back to our main topic. Today we're discussing International Day of Democracy, which was commemorated yesterday. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his speech to the world, said the International Day of Democracy is an opportunity to reinforce the importance of upholding free speech, civil liberties, and the rule of law, ensuring accountable institutions, and protecting and promoting human rights. Some rights activists, however, say the day comes at a time when there is a crackdown on human rights and political activists in Zimbabwe. Human rights organizations, including the United Nations, have called on Zimbabwe to free these activists and protect human rights and the rule of law. And to discuss this issue, we are joined by Advocate Kennedy Masie, a human rights lawyer based in the United States, and also Tendai Mbofana, an analyst based in Zimbabwe. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Mavi.
Thank you. I'll start off with you, Mr. Mbofana, since you're based far there in Zimbabwe. What is the situation on the ground when we look at today's Democracy Day, which was commemorated yesterday? What's your take on what's going on?
Yes, thank you so much, Marvelous. What I can say as someone who's on the ground is that the situation is embarrassing. Embarrassing on the nation of Zimbabwe, and embarrassing on a country that purports to be a constitutional democracy. And what is even more embarrassing is that Zimbabwe just a few weeks ago, on the 17th of August, was elected or installed as the chair of the Southern African Development Community, whose principles also include respect of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. So here we have a country that is now the chair of SADC, a country that's supposed to be a constitutional democracy, but which is at the forefront of violating every tenet of democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. As you rightly mentioned, just before the SADC summit itself, we saw over 100 human rights defenders and opposition activists being arrested on spurious charges. Let's start off with the Avondale 78. These were opposition activists that were in a private residence, taking part in a private function, just like people would meet for a funeral at their homes or something, a birthday party in their home, and the police raided that event, arrested these men and women, and most of them are still languishing in prison right now. What crime had they committed? They were accused of planning, meeting or gathering illegally, and then planning something that was illegal, and yet there is no law in Zimbabwe that compels anyone, if you are having your own private function at your own house, to seek permission from anyone, let alone the police. And yet these men and women were arrested for ostensibly conducting an illegal gathering. And then when they go to court, where you would expect the court to at least uphold the rule of law and say, no, the police, you have overreacted, you have been overzealous, these people have not committed any crime, it's not a crime in Zimbabwe to gather at a private residence for your private functions. No, what does the court do? They deny these people bail, their constitutional right to bail, which is enshrined in the Constitution. They were denied repeatedly. Only a week or so ago, with a few of them, and I understand even today, one of them was again added to those who were allowed to go to be tried while coming from home. So you'll find with such things playing out in the international community, it paints a very terrible, dark picture of Zimbabwe, which is a country that should be taken seriously as a democratic state. It shows that Zimbabwe is not a democratic state at all.
Thank you very much there. Over to you, Advocate Masia. What is the significance of this day? And do you think Zimbabwe is on track when it comes to issues of democracy?
Yes, this day is very important because it gives the whole world, many countries in the world, a time to reflect on the tenets of democracy. And pretty much democracy involves full participation of everyone, including the international community, national governing bodies, civic society, and individuals. And it's something that is a goal which should be seen to be done, and which should be seen done in a manner that everyone feels safe to participate in. But if you look at our country, Zimbabwe, it's said, as the last speaker said, that we see that many individuals, civic society leaders, and just general, the general populace are being incarcerated for trying to mold these principles of democracy. And the issue of democracy, or the principles of democracy, also have their backbone in free and fair elections, which should be participated by everyone, and everyone should also feel that their vote counts in bringing about a government that they want them to rule at that time. But if you look at Zimbabwe, since we have known this creature called elections, elections have been contested. Elections have been treated as if it's a weapon to whip people back into line and to cast fear in the general populace. And most of the elections, if not all, have been, determined to be not free and fair, and we have seen the violence around the elections in Zimbabwe and so forth. But if you look at the election and the principles of democracy, they go hand in glove. Mm-hmm. And without free and fair elections, without the citizenry feeling that they participated in those elections freely, you'd see the contestations that we see today that are happening in Zimbabwe. So if you look at Zimbabwe, we see that Zimbabwe has got a long way to go, respecting the tenets of democracy, and we hope this will change in the future.
Thank you very much. I spoke to Mr. Masimba Mavaza, who's a member of ZANU-PF earlier on, but we're failing to get hold of him. But we actually had an interview with him, which we played on radio yesterday, where he said most of the people who say there is no democracy in Zimbabwe are sellouts. He said that there is democracy, and I'll come to you, Vambofana, kuti pane here zvinogona kuitwa nenyika yeZimbabwe kuti tuonewo kuchinzwo kwakuzoita utongi hwejecherere, uyezve tunoona vamavaza vamwe vatakataura nezuro vanga vachiti vana vanenge vachitaura kuti munyika hamuna utongi hwejekerere vanhu vanowanikwa ivo vari kungoda kunyomba nyika, asi munyika muri vanhu vagere zvakanaka. Munoti ipapo?
Kutaura kwakadaro kwakataurwa navamavaza kunotyisa, uyezve hakutarisirwi munyika yatinoyembekera utongi hwejekerere. Hatingati munhu wese ari kutaura zvinhu zviri kutoonekwa pachena. Hanzvadzi yangu mazuva atotaura pawatanga apa kuti zvakatotaurwawo neUnited Nations, takazviverenga tese, zvakataurwa nana Amnesty International, vana Human Rights Watch. Tingati vese ava here shuwa vane daka ravanaro neZimbabwe rinenge riri reidaka rine United Nations kana Human Rights Watch kana Amnesty International kune Zimbabwe nderei. Tiri kuona tapamuenzaniso yevanhu vakasungwa kumba kwaJameson Timber, vabva vari pamba pavo, asi ngazvizivi izvozvo kuti vanhu vakasungwa vari mumba mavo vachitozvifarira zvavo pasina kana chimwe chete chavakangata kana mutemo umwe chete wavachikora. Ndiani yavamavaza vati varipo vaitopindurwa ipapo kuti vanhu ava vanga vasiri pavatimba here. Mutemo wakazoita kuti mapurisa ave kuzovasunga vari pamba pavo vachizvifarira chii? Uyezve hakunyepa here kuti vanhu vazhinji kana ipo pasadhaki pacho vanhu vaingosungirwa kuti muda kuratidzira pasina kana umboo humwe chete hwakaburiswa. Kana nanhasi uno sadhaki yacho yatopfuura mukombe wesamiti yacho yatopfuura tatokanganwa nezvayo, hapana kana umboo hwati wapiwa nevakavasunga kuti pane zvakaipa zvaida kuitwa kunze kwokuti vangoda kuratidzira chete. Asi unotoziva kuti mubumbiro romutemo section 59 inobvumidza mumwe nemumwe chizvarwa cheZimbabwe kuratidzira murunyararo. Asi vanhu ava vakangosungwa kuti muruda kuzoratidzira pane pachaitwa musangano wesadhaki. Saka takana tichitaura izvozvo zvinotoratidza kuti Zimbabwe haisi kutevedzera yatingati rule of law. Hapana angazoti ndekuti tiri kuzvitaura ndekuti tinovenga Zimbabwe, tiri vatengesi, tiri masellout. Musellout saka munhu ari patriotic anoda nyika yake ndiye munhu anonzi nyarara kana mitemo ichityorwa nehurumende, nyarara. Kana vanhu vachishungurudzwa nehurumende chingotaura kuti zvinhu zvese zvakanaka, muZimbabwe tina utongi hwejekerere, asi ndo upatriotism wacho, ndo kuda nyika kwacho here ikoko, tichidzvanyurwa takanyarara tichipembedza hurumende kuti tagere zvakanaka, zvinhu zvese zvakanaka, zvonzi hauri patriotic. Kwete, isu tinongotaura chokwadi chekuti tiri kutozikanwa kana navamavazache nevamwe vese vanoti zvinototaurwa nemadistractor nevamwe vakadaro. Takavabvunza kuti saka tinomisa munhu kuti angosungwa izvezvi kuti ndakati mangwana maZimbabwe ngatiratidzirei, unotosora wasungwa. Asi chinhu chiri mubumbiro romutemo ikodzero iri mubumbiro romutemo kuti muZimbabwe wega wega ane kodzero yekuratidzira. Chero wazviita murunyararo ende hautogoni kupiwa mvumo nemapurisa, kungovaudza, kungovazivisawo kuti mangwana musi wa17 September tinoda kumboratidzirawo mastriti mune nyaya yakati yakati, asi togoni kutopiwa mvumo, kungovazivisa. Zvinhu zviri pamutemo, zvakanyorwa pamutemo, asi munhu akangotaura izvozvo otonzi angachida kukonzera mhirizhonga, angachida kukonzera kusagadzikana munyika, ngaasungwe. Saka ari kutyora mutemo ipapa ndiani?
aiwa tinotenda. Advocate Masie, what can be done by Zimbabwe to ensure that it respects the rule of law and democracy?
I think the first thing that Zimbabwe should do, which is pretty much simple, is just to respect their own constitution. Our constitution is one of, I can say, progressive documents that we have seen over time. And pretty much in the constitution, all government departments have got an obligation to respect the tenets of democracy, to respect human rights, and to respect just the general civil rights that people are entitled to. So I think the first thing is for the government, through the executive and all the branches, to respect the constitution. And another thing is that Zimbabwe needs to develop a culture of building institutions that will survive the current ruling government, so to say. Without proper institutions within government that respect the constitution, that respect human rights, that respect and understand the fundamental tenets of democracy, we are not going anywhere. Because if a new government comes in, it comes in, with basically new things or new. What can I say? Without the backbone of understanding how to build those institutions, make them stronger and survive beyond the politics of the day.
Thank you so much, Advocate Masie. There, let me take a caller. Hello, caller Makadi. Aiwa tiri waditiri kutaura nani caller muri kupi? Taurai tinzwe, muri kunzwa iri mudandaro panyaya yeutongi hwejekerere, mungati zvakamira sei munyika? I think
ndingatendi kuti munyika medu mune jekerere nokuti tikatarisa chero vanhu kodzero dzavo dzichikuremekedzwa plus tikatarira chero vanhu kuti vatestrika murodhi hazvitogari zvatenderwa. Saka tingati nyika ine kodzero dzakanaka zvichiri kuresa kana dzimwe nyika tiri kuresa kodzero dziri kuresa hatichirekisana kana 20% hatisviki.
Dai maibvunzwa kuti saka poitwa sei semaonero enyu?
Panongodati vatungamiriri vagadzirire chirongwa kuti vanzwisise zvinoda vanhu vawane freedom yekufamba yekutaura zvinongodiwa futi.
Iko kwamuri ikoko kwamungati kune utongi hwejekerere here kwamunogarawo?
Ndichitarisa kuna naSouth Africa kwendiri kunoku hautongi hwejekerere huriko, nokuti tikatarira vanhu vagari vemota zvinoratidza kuti nyika vakaihwira nokuti vakafika mahara zvese zvinowanika kutozvidzirwa tondati zvakandanaka pasina kumati chiro bato ripi vanongopa havatarisi vanongopa zvakanaka.
Saka Zimbabwe ingadzidzei pane zvamuri kuona kwamuri kuSouth Africa?
Zvinoda kune vanhu vane nzeve vagona kuzoonawo kune vamwe kuti vamwe vari kuzvifamusoro vakumbozvigona zvitoi, nekuti kunoga vatarisi kuti ndobato ripi vanongoti nyika iri takarwira tese zvekuzoti weopposition party kwati weti havazvikoshesi vanongokoshesa vanhu nyika takarwira tose yava yedu mirungu nemitema tise yava yedu kazvimwe nguva yehondo yakapera vanhu vakufanira kugarisana zvakanaka tichirespecta kodzero dzevanhu vese nekuti munhu wese nda kurarama.
Saka munofunga kuti zviri kutadzikana sei muZimbabwe izvi?
Zviri kutadzikana nokuti vakuru vari kutungamirira pari zvino vanotonga nedenho, havasi kutonga zvekuda kuti vaserere zvinoda vanhu. Vanonga vanongofunga zvavo ivo kuti deni nyika ringopererwa, ende zvinokonzerwa futi nemapurisa nemasoja anenge akarekera kubato, nokuti hazotenderi kuti vanhu vakwanise kuva nefreedom yekufamba chaipo. Haikwanisi kuvapo.
Aiwa, tinotenda chaizvo mukoma. Painozi nguve nezuva rakanaka kwamuruku.
Tinotenda chose.
Thank you. Vambofana tomboya kwamuri manzwa zvataura kola ari kutaurawo pfungwa dzake, ari kutaura kuti dai pawanikwa ipo Zimbabwe ichidzidzawo kubva kune dzimwe nyika, imi munoti
ndinobvumirana nezvavataura zvese. kana zvataurwa naadvocate kuti tiri kunesa apa ndechekuti tine vanhu vane umpendi dzoga kubva pavakapinda 1980 hurumende yeZANU-PF haina kubhoda kuita zvayaivimbisa vanhu pavaiti tiri kurwira nyika. Vanotiudza zuva nezuva kwemakore 44 apera kuti tiri takarwira nyika, takaunza guta ruzhinji neutongo hwejekerere ndo watakarwira ukafirwa nevanhu vakawanda stereka. Haiwazve zvakarwirwa nevanhu hazvisiri izvo zvatakazoona zvaakuitiwa nyika yahwiniwa. Takatoona kuti kubva pakatowinwa nyika yacho papa kutopondwa vanhu kunana Midland nekunana Matabeleland uko. Wabvunza kuti mayavaponderei vanhu zviuru nezviuru zvevanhu vavo havana kana tsananguro yavanopa. Saka chakakanganisika apa ndechekuti makapinda vanhu vanga vasina kana shungu kana pamwe chete zvavo pekuti vaite zvinhu zvavakati tiri kurwira. Vanhu vakatoratidza kuti chavairwira ndechekuti ivo pachavo vapinde muhupfu, vapinde mukutonga zvinhu zvavaichiva vachiona zvine varungu vavaiti ndo vakatigara matununu, ndo vari kutidzvanyira, ndo masveta simba, ndo vapambi vepfumi, ndo zvavaitoyeva vachitochiva izvi zvekuti ngatirwei. Noti kwete vese vairwa musango, ndiri kutaura vakuru vacho, vairwa masango vanhu vaitorevesa, vaitodawo kuita ugaro hwakanaka. Nanhatu ndo vanhu vachiri kutambura, nanhatu vakatokanganikwa vainyatsorwa musango, asi vanga vakahwirwa gara zvavo kwana vadzimai avo vachita vana vachiti tiri kuhondo vakahwanda kwavanga vari kana Mozambique kana kuZambia. Vanga vakahwandira kuti kana nyika yarwirwa nevamwe vachifa vari kufa masango, ivo kana vazouya kwakungotsiva varungu vanga varipo. Hapana chavaida kuchinja. Saka masystem abotaurwa naadvocate aya kuti masystem of government kana asina kusandurwa, chero pakauya opposition yakangopindawo ichangokontinya ngekuti inenge ichishandisa masystem ayo kuti mastate institutions ari politicized, majudiciary iri politicized, electoral commission iri politicized, mutaura manje vaitotaurawo kuti malaw enforcement, mapurisa, military zviri politicized. So you find kuti ma-institutions iwawo as long as asina kusandurwa, asina kuti aite independent, asingachiva vakuru venyika, achinyatsotonga zviri pachena, hapana chinosanduka. Ndo zvinhu zvinoda kuchinjwa izvozvo.
Aiwa, tinotenda chaizvo vatendai Ruben Mbofana vanga vari kutaura nesu vari kuZimbabwe uko. Advocate, if you can just close us out as we move forward. So what's the way forward for Zimbabwe now?
Yeah, the way forward is that, the government should just respect the tenets of democracy, make sure that institutions such as the judiciary, the executive itself, and the parliament are strengthened, and also that they are independent and not militarized, is what the previous speaker has said. If those three institutions can work independently, separately, and are strengthened, I think we might be setting this in the best foot forward in trying to deal with the issues of strengthening our democracy in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much. We were hearing there from Kennedy Masie, Advocate Kennedy Masie, who's a human rights lawyer. And we did also try to get hold of Mr. Masimba Mavaza of ZANU-PF, who we spoke to on our program, on our radio program yesterday, like I said. And he was saying that there is democracy in Zimbabwe. That's why ZANU-PF and other parties went to war, but we were not able to get the ZANU-PF or government side today. And on that note, I would like to thank our guests who were with us, Advocate Kennedy Masie, who's out there in Texas, and also Mr. Tendai Mbofana in Zimbabwe. And also those who wrote in for us to call you. We did try your numbers, and Pinos is one of the callers that we were able to speak to. Thank you so much, and we do value you and hope that you continue to give us your details on our social media platforms so that we can call you. And on that note, that brings us to the end of our show. Signing off in Washington, I'm Marvelous Mhlanga Nyahuye, saying have a very good day.